While episodes 5 and 6 of the Amazing Digital Circus gave us an incredible dose of character development, the fandom is already looking to the horizon, and all signs point to the highly anticipated episode 7 being anything but ordinary. From the voice actors to the creator herself, everyone is saying this episode will be insane. It's expected to make many fans fall out of love with the digital circus, while others will be captivated by the new concept. Gooseworx herself described it with a single word: huh? It's also the first episode for which she didn't give a sneak peek on Reddit, simply stating, "You'll have to wait and see." Today we'll try to piece together what they mean based on all the information from the Glitch Direct teaser and leaks from Gooseworx herself, like the famous image of a depressed Jax. The community knows that Gooseworx's Tumblr and social media are a treasure trove of lore and cryptic hints. One of the most fascinating pieces of evidence comes from a response Gooseworx gave about Jax, where she described a hypothetical scene of a pathetic, frail Jax on a beach covered in oil from a nearby oil spill. This phrase is incredibly intriguing as it takes a peaceful and happy scenario like a quiet day at the beach and twists it in a dark, surreal way. A simple beach episode could quickly devolve into a digital ecological disaster, fitting perfectly with the show's tone of corrupting cheerful concepts with existential horror. The idea of Jax, a character who strives to maintain a facade of control, being reduced to a pathetic and frail state is a concept that could upset a large part of the community, something his voice actor Michael Kovac has already mentioned in an interview. But the beach talk doesn't stop there. Gooseworx also answered a question about what kind of swimsuit Jax would wear and promised more outfit changes for the characters in future episodes. We've already seen this in the episode 7 teaser, with the exception of Jax, who doesn't seem ready to join the adventure with the rest of the circus members just yet. So we'll have to wait to see the classic swimsuit Jax will wear. Furthermore, since the early stages of production, Michael Kovac has publicly expressed his desire for the series to have a beach episode. In a collaborative project like this, it's possible the idea has been slowly developing from the beginning, and this idea was confirmed during New York Comic Con, where Glitch released the long-awaited teaser for episode 7, A Day at the Beach. The very first character we see in the teaser is the sun, whom we briefly saw in the pilot episode. She reappeared in Glitch's Wake Up Pomni video, where we heard her speak for the first time, mentioning she was annoyed with Kane because the moon had more lines than her. Kane promised he would try to give her more lines, and that promise, though delayed, has come true. The teaser shows the sun will be a major part of the episode, retaining her cheerful, aggressive, and slightly psychopathic demeanor. Next, we see a tent called the Kane's Magical Changing, the object that will allow the circus members to don their long-awaited beach attire, with Pomni being the first to try it out. Afterward, we see several scenes of the characters in their respective swimsuits, but the most interesting part is the setting. It appears to be a modified version of the digital lake from the pilot rather than a completely new environment. We could theorize that Kane's multiple glitches and instabilities are taking a toll on him, making it harder to create new sets from scratch, and forcing him to modify existing ones instead. Alternatively, perhaps he's learning that peaceful settings make the circus members happier, slowly figuring out how to maintain their mental stability and becoming more open to feedback, as we briefly saw with the suggestion box in episodes 4 and 5. Although, it's more likely that the unhinged Kane will reappear, distorting this tranquil adventure into something dark and disturbing, probably by flooding the beach with that sea of oil Gooseworx subtly hinted at. Continuing with the details from the episode 7 teaser, there's a scene where Gangle and Zubul are smashing a watermelon with Jax's face drawn on it. Interestingly, in the distance behind the watermelon, Jax can be seen sitting in a beach chair, very isolated from the others. This aligns with the final scene of the previous episode, where after the conflict with Pomni at the end of episode 6, we see him having a panic attack in the bathroom. This could be the prelude to his potential abstraction, a theory supported by multiple clues and comments from both Gooseworx and Michael Kovac, who mentioned that this episode will make the right people mad. But to understand the depth of Jax's crisis, we need to talk about a character who is conspicuously absent: Ribbit. Gooseworx has confirmed that Ribbit was the last one to be abstracted before Kufmo. The community also widely believes Ribbit was Jax's best friend, due to multiple hints showing an emotionally unstable Jax whenever Ribbit is mentioned. This happened in episode 5 during the picnic scene, where we see Jax opening up to Pomni, only for the moment to be interrupted by Ragatha, who comments on how Jax used to have friends but doesn't anymore. In that instant, Jax's mask slips, revealing a face mixing pain with deep anger. When Pomni tries to press further, his immediate reaction is to dodge the subject, but it's too late. Both Pomni and the audience have seen that wound. Shortly after, during the strange interlude Kane created to end the peaceful moment the circus members were having, we see Jax in the hallway of rooms. When he stops, he's looking at Ribbit's door, marked with a cross, making it clear that this character has abstracted. Thanks to concept art shared by Gooseworx, we know the character's name is Ribbit, and she also confirmed that Ribbit abstracted just before Kaufmo, placing Jax's loss in the relatively recent past. As a fun fact, one of the early designs for Pomni was a frog, which might explain why Jax seems to have a strange fixation on her. Perhaps she reminds him of his old friend, not in appearance, but maybe in attitude. With all this context, we arrive at the present, on the brink of Jax's emotional abyss. Gooseworx leaked the screenshot of an absolutely depressed Jax, possibly in his room. We can theorize that this scene belongs to episode 7, right after the end of episode 6 where he suffers an anxiety attack, as it's logical to think he would retreat to his room to recover after such a difficult moment. In that leaked image, there's a key detail: a shadow is cast in front of him. The theory is that a character is trying to comfort him, attempting to prevent him from following the same path as Ribbit. The question is, who? Our first thought might be Pomni, but this is unlikely given what we saw in episode 6, where Jax actively rejected her attempt to connect emotionally. His fear of forming new bonds is the core of his crisis, but there's another member of the circus who might understand him: Kinger. As we know, Kinger is an incredibly resilient character who has endured unimaginable suffering, especially the loss of his beloved wife, Queenie. He has held on, but at the cost of his sanity. However, as we've seen, he has brief moments of lucidity when in the dark. The leaked image shows Jax in a dark room, the perfect setting for Kinger to have one of his empathetic and wisdom-filled talks, just as he did with Pomni in episode 3, and more recently with Ragatha in episode 6. This is the ideal moment for Kinger to tell Jax about his own past with Queenie, making it clear that he is not alone. Kinger is living proof that one can survive the worst kind of pain. However, this scenario might not be so hopeful. Jax could reject King's port and, in a fit of rage and despair, cross the threshold into abstraction. This dark twist would perhaps be the moment that both Gooseworx and Michael Kovac have been warning us about. The abstraction of a character as complex as Jax, just as we were beginning to see his true character development, would be the perfect way to make the right people mad. It would be a statement that in the Amazing Digital Circus, no one is safe. Ribbit's story wouldn't just be an echo of the past, but a foreshadowing of Jack's inevitable and tragic future. All of this aligns with what Gooseworx has told us. When a fan asked her to describe the upcoming episodes in a single word, she gave "huh" for episode 7. This implies the next installment of the Amazing Digital Circus will leave us with more questions than answers. This connects to another phrase Gooseworx said about episode 7, which fits perfectly with what we know about Jack so far: "You're only making the joke take longer." This suggests his internal conflict will continue until episode 8, for which the descriptive word is "oh," implying that that's when our questions will finally be resolved. So stay tuned. There are strong indications that episode 7 of the Amazing Digital Circus will be a pivotal chapter for the remaining episodes. Remember, after the premiere of episode 7 on December 12th of this year, it won't be long before our "huh" turns into an "oh." We'll only have to wait 3 months until the release of episode 8 on March 20th, 2026 for our questions to be answered, setting the perfect stage for the dreaded and eagerly awaited episode 9 of the Amazing Digital Circus. Sadly, as Gooseworx has confirmed, this will be the finale of the first and only season. Therefore, the premiere of the next episode of this wonderful series will be the starting point for what awaits us in the final episodes. One thing is for sure, this episode is coming to change everything.